There was this really, really beautiful moment where it was 2 a.m. and we were out in the woods and it was rainy and we were filming and we were all tired. But I think we had just taken our lunch and Evan got an email that was like the final benchmark donation that they needed to like be fully in the green. And I remember he like started jumping up and down, like just thrilled. And Juan came running over and was like, "What happened? Is something on fire?" And turned to you and told you that. And the two of you just fell into each other's arms, and tears were in my eyes. I think everyone that was around in that moment when that happened really felt the impact of what having the ability and access to fiscal sponsorship can do.
I'm basically a storyteller. That's just where my life has taken me. And I've kind of lived through some really tough stuff. I'm sober. I've been sober for 7 years now. I'm also a sexual assault survivor. In my journey of acceptance with being a sexual assault survivor, I kind of started writing. What You Deserve it's a journey of one person split in time. So we have a teenager and we have an adult who are circling around this assault, trying to find a way to move past it. And that is what the proof of concept short is. We are almost done with post-production. It has been submitted to several festivals. It is a proof of concept for a larger feature, which I'm currently developing, which explores how do you make a life with this massive anchor in it? How do you move through this kind of pain and insanity? So, and in that realm, in that vein with Surviving Myself, that story truly about my experiences being in active addiction and in a marriage, which was insane. It's also a 3-part series right now about this couple who are moving into sobriety from active addiction. And once you put the drug down, that's literally the beginning. The prerequisite to sobriety is putting the drug down. The actual work begins at that point in time. And that is what I'm capturing with these 3 episodes. We just wrapped production on part 2, which is named Sanity. Each part is represented by a principle of one of the 12 steps in the 12-step program. So I'm currently working with an editor on that. I guess Surviving Myself, it's one of the hard parts about being in recovery once you've stayed sober for a bit is seeing people struggle and doing things. I just want to shake them and be like, "You're stupid, stop." But I can't make people do things. I can only control myself. So this is my way of showing another option to picking up. The project is deeply important to me, and as we're getting ready developing the 3rd part, I have a large interest in working with actual rehabs and their educational programming and developing to see what kind of stories they think would be beneficial for their clients and their patients.
I absolutely love that idea. Yeah, this is very, very powerful stuff. And I really like the idea of communicating directly with rehab facilities and those who are actively struggling and trying to ask them, what story do you want, or what story do you think would be able to help you the most? And I think that's beautiful. I mean, our lives are stories, our lives are narratives. And I think that what you're doing is creating a new narrative, a new story with so much hurt, but that's life. So it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I guess you can jump in on this question as well, which is, what does the road ahead look like for both projects? You can talk about one or the other or both at the same time. And how has being a part of Do Good, how has being fiscally sponsored helped or assisted in the process up to now and then in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I can speak to Surviving Myself and Juan can hop in there. I am not a producer on What You Deserve. I was the assistant director, so I just kept the ship running there. But I love that team. It was a wonderful experience, and a lot of the conversations surrounding fiscal sponsorship for Surviving Myself were actually based on the impact and experience that Juan and Evan had partnering with you all for What You Deserve. The more that I heard the two of them talk about it, the more Juan and I felt it would be of vital importance for us to explore a partnership for Surviving Myself as well, which obviously we've done and are continuing forward with. The road ahead for us is right now, part 1 is in festival submission circuit. We were accepted into the Newark
the
Plus Festival.
Yeah, which was
is
awesome.
Wonderful, and kind of just the first first of hopefully many to come. Once part 2 is done, we will do the same. We'll send that out to some festivals as well. And then our big goal is actually to kind of almost present part 1 and 2 as a proof of concept for the development of 3. We've been having conversations about what does their story look like. Part 1 is told from the perspective of one partner. Part 2 is what happens to the other partner after he discovers that his husband has started using again. So it's 2 parts of one story, and the third is a conversation around what happens after the events we see in 1 and 2. And so Juan and I are discussing, is this another short or is this a feature? What does this look like and what does their world look like? And Juan is writing that and likely will also direct it. Nightingale intends to continue. Nightingale Studios is my production company. We intend to continue producing alongside Juan through this story. It's really important to us. We have established a really wonderful working relationship that just continues to grow and evolve together. And I love working with Juan. And he said, I think the feeling is pretty mutual there. We care a lot about telling this story together. So ultimately, the partnership with Do Good is to allow us to not only finish part 2, but to package it and take it out to present what can be for part 3, to really kind of build the culmination of the story of these 2 people, but ultimately the story of where do you go when you are in recovery or you relapse, and what happens to the relationships you have during that process. I think that covered it. Juan, feel free to
Thanks, Kenzie. That really covers what's to come with Surviving Myself. Speaking to What You Deserve, it's pretty similar. Eventually, the goal is to get enough attention and to get people to help pay for the feature. But the ultimate goal for me is, and will always remain, sharing that story, because the more we talk about this stuff, the more we heal from it. Period. And we are already like underreporting like crazy around these kinds of things. If I can lessen the amount of pain or shame that somebody is living with from any of these things, then I will feel accomplished. The response that Surviving Myself had at that festival was like really, really powerful. I'm just grateful. But speaking to the relationship with Do Good, Evan Enslow, who is the producing partner on What You Deserve, has brought us together. And we had always intended to work with a fiscal sponsor because it's a really wonderful relationship tool to have in fundraising for short films. You know, we're scrappy folk. We don't come from money. But we have wonderful stories to tell. So let's like make it work. And meeting Andy and Kamara, I was just really extremely supported. There is definitely like an invested interest from Do Good in the projects and the stories that I'm telling. Just like objectively, the rates are phenomenal. Like, that's an incredible thing. I'm super interested in Andy's mission. This concept of spreading good and making this type of work available for everyone, I think is this
nonprofit as a service.
That's incredible. I've already referred several people to Do Good because I remember the first time I was trying to get fiscal sponsorship and I looked at somebody else and there was this like massive chunk of information and I was like, I feel like I'm looking at hieroglyphs right here. Like I don't know what's happening. But it feels so simple with Do Good. And even in the application process, I was able to hone and clarify like what it is I want to do. What plan do I have to get this done? And how am I going to share this with people? I feel empowered to accomplish my goals working with Do Good. I have to get this done. And how...
That's wonderful. Well, we appreciate the kind words. But yeah, I mean, Do Good's whole philosophy is giving everybody a bigger piece of pie in the nonprofit or the social good space. Everybody needs money in order to see their projects, to see their communities flourish. So that's the whole drive behind it. And I guess this kind of leads into the next question. Has there been any moments in the process of your film, connecting with people around the film, that are very memorable or very special? Any like distinguishing moments that have made all of this worthwhile? Moments in the process of your film, connecting with people?
There have been so many, to be honest. First of all, just being able to make it onto set is an incredible accomplishment. And to have had, especially like with What You Deserve, because that was a budget and we were in the sticks, man. And we're telling a really tough story there. Everything was just simple working with Do Good. When we needed money dispersed, it was there. So many people say to us that on the production management end, that was one of the smoothest sets that they had worked on. People were comfortable. If there was an issue, it was resolved. We've worked in film. When when that stuff is taken care of, we can focus on the creativity of it all. And to have like our crew, we have said such wonderful things to me and to Miles, our director, about the power of what we were telling people. That meant a lot to me. I think another thing that's worth mentioning is in the fundraising process, specifically for What You Deserve as well, when people opened up to me about their own experiences with sexual assault, because that's the whole point in doing this. So it just felt like I was really in the clear and headed in the right direction. Having fiscal sponsorship kind of makes this all possible. Kenzie?
I was gonna ask if I could chime in. There was this moment, again, I wasn't one of the producers on What You Deserve, but I was there. And there was this really beautiful moment where it was 2 a.m. and we were out in the woods and it was rainy and we were filming and we were all tired. But I think we had just taken our lunch and Evan got an email that was like the final benchmark donation that they needed to like be fully in the green. And I remember he like started jumping up and down, like just thrilled. And Juan came running over and was like, "What happened? Is something on fire?" And turned to you and told you that. And the two of you just fell into each other's arms, and you know, tears were in my eyes. I think everyone that was around in that moment when that happened really felt the impact of what having the ability and access to fiscal sponsorship can do, especially in the truly independent, not studio independent world. We're doing this all on our own. We're finding the money on our own. And it's one of those situations where the funds are out there, but it's hard to find sometimes when you don't qualify for certain tax deduction credits because your budget isn't high enough. You don't qualify for state tax credit because you're not a feature film or your budget isn't high enough. And a fiscal sponsor removes that roadblock of your budget's not high enough to matter, where the profit margin conversation doesn't necessarily go completely out the window, but does become less of a, I need to profit from this to invest money. And so seeing that moment for me as a producer as well, not on What You Deserve, but just in general, I think that really influenced why I wanted to explore future relationships with Do Good and fiscal sponsorship, was because I saw how much relief it gives knowing that there is a way to empower independent filmmakers. And I do really love the way that you all have some toes in the water with film, and having been in it and now are in the nonprofit sector, you understand those roadblocks and you care about making it easier for everyone to tell stories that impact people and that matter.
It's awesome. On that note, where can people find ways to donate, find out more about y'all's project, just find out more about what y'all are creating? It's awesome. On that note, where can people find ways to donate?
Yeah. So my website, thejuancalix.com. It's that one. I got my acting stuff, but I have a page with my film work, and there's a link under the Surviving Myself to our landing page with Do Good. We are currently accepting all donations for production and post-production costs for part 2, as well as development and production costs, pre-production costs for part 3. And we are in post and I guess festival life for What You Deserve. And also on my webpage, there's a link to What You Deserve, the website there where they can donate as well. Evan will be really happy. Specifically with Surviving Myself, these stories, I do need donations for these stories to be told. I'm getting ready here to really start ramping up on a proper fundraising push and move. Stories around addiction are tough to tell because people are so oversaturated with the ish of it all, with some beautiful shows out there like Euphoria and things like that. And I'm telling these stories primarily for the addiction recovery community. And so any help that we can get with that is literally saving lives. Because the reality is that people die from that disease, and I can't stop them from picking up, but I sure as hell can show them another solution. So stay tuned for the fundraising push on that one, and welcome any preemptive support.
Well, thank y'all so much. It's wonderful talking with y'all and learning more about y'all's project, just how big of an impact it's trying to make, and hopefully will make.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
It's good to see you, Kamara.
Yeah, you too.